All right, you guys are good to go. Look at you. Look how serious you look on your face. She's serious. Are you serious? Are you feeling like you're going to do a good job? All right, so here we go. We actually have to read this a little faster than we did last time because why? This is a little longer than the last one. So you guys, we need less interruptions. Quick we go. 1, 2, 3.
Go.
Off we go. What happened at the front door? Chapter 7. Okay, so anybody who can quickly tell me, and I mean quickly, what happened?
The White Witch.
Right. You're gonna lean on that. Come on forward there, buddy. Thank you. All right, so the White Witch showed up at whose house?
Diggory.
At Diggory's house. Excellent. Okay, the White Witch shows up at Diggory's house, and is this going to be a problem?
Yes,
Probably.
a very big problem.
A very big problem. Yeah, I think so. Now, slave, how long am I to wait for my chariot? Thundered the witch. Uncle Andrew cowered away from her now that she was really present. All of his silly thoughts that he had had while looking at himself in the glass were oozing out of him. But Aunt Letty at once got up from her knees and came over to the center of the room. "And who is this young person, Andrew, may I ask?" said Aunt Letty in icy tones. The distinguished foreigner of a very important person," he stammered. "Rubbish," said Aunt Letty, and then turning to the witch, "Get out of my house this moment, you shameless hussy." That's funny. "Or I'll send for the police." She thought the witch must be someone out of a circus and did not approve of bare arms. Okay.
Oh no.
"What woman is this?" said Jadis. "Down on your knees, minion, before I blast you. No strong language in this house, if you please, young woman," said Aunt Letty. Instantly, as it seemed to Uncle Andrew, the queen towered up to an even greater height. Fire flashed from her eyes. She flung out her arm with the same gesture and the same horrible sounding words that had lately turned the palace gates of Charn to dust. But nothing happened except that Aunt Letty, thinking that those horrible words were meant to be ordinary English, said, "I thought as much. The woman is drunk." That means she drank too much beer. That's right. She can't even speak clearly. It must have been a terrible moment for the witch when she suddenly realized that her power of turning people into dust, which had been quite real in her own world, was not going to work in our world. But she did not lose her nerve even 1 second. Without wasting a thought on her disappointment, she lunged forward, caught Aunt Letty around the neck and the knees, raised her high above her head as if she had been no heavier than a doll, and threw her across the room. While Aunt Letty was still hurtling through the air, the housemaid, who was having a beautifully exciting morning, put her head in at the door and said, "If you please, sir, the hansom's come." By the way, a hansom is like a carriage or a taxi, okay? "Lead on, slave," said the witch to Uncle Andrew. He began muttering something about regrettable violence, must really protest, but at a simple glance from Jadis, he became speechless. She drove him out of the room and out of the house, and Diggory came running down the stairs just in time to see the front door close behind them. "Jiminy," he said, "she's loose on London, and with Uncle Andrew. I wonder what on earth is going to happen now." "I wonder too." "Oh, Master Diggory," said the housemaid, who was really having a wonderful day now, "I think Miss Kitterly's hurt herself somehow." So they both rushed into the drawing room to find out what had happened. If Aunt Letty had fallen on bare boards or even on the carpet, I suppose all of her bones would have been broken. But by great good luck, she had fallen on the mattress.
What's a mattress? It's like one of these.
Yeah, that's a mattress, yeah. So if you fall on a mattress, you're not going to get hurt as bad as if you fall on the bare boards, right?
Ow. Floor.
Yeah, so there you go. That's the point. Aunt Letty was a very tough old lady. Aunts often were in those days. After she had had some smelling salts, which basically they had to revive her a little bit. Well, it means that she was sort of passed out a little bit from being thrown. It kind of knocked her out a little bit. She said there was nothing the matter with her except a few bruises. Very soon she was taking charge of the situation. "Sarah," she said to the housemaid, who had never had such a day before, "go around to the police station at once and tell them there is a dangerous lunatic at large. I will take Mrs. Kirk's lunch up myself. Mrs. Kirk was, of course, Diggory's mother, okay? When Mother's lunch had been seen to, Diggory and Aunt Letty had their own. And after he did some good hard thinking, the problem was how to get the witch back to her own world, or at any rate out of ours, as soon as possible. Whatever happened, she must not be allowed to go on rampaging around the house. Do you have your hand up? Is your hand up? Do you have something to say?
Yeah. All the chocolate.
Are we going to have chocolate covered raisins? I think we probably will. That's a very, very good question. Excellent. What's your question there, sir?
Rampaging is like...
Ripping around, crazy, going nuts, right? Very good. Okay, enough questions. We have to go quick because this is long and we have lots of interruptions, and talk too much, what's going to happen? It won't fit. It won't fit on my deal, so we have to quickly read. Can you guys do it?
Yes. Yes.
Patience, patience, patience.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody?
How many more do we have to do?
Like 150. Can you wait that long? Okay.
No.
You did it just fine last time. I will tell you as we get closer so you can sort of be patient, all right? You ready? We're going to go 1, 2, 3.
Go.
All right. Now, when Mother's lunch had been seen to, Diggory and Aunt Letty had their own. And then he did some thinking. He needed to figure out how to get rid of that witch, right? That's what... How can I get rid of that witch? At the present moment, as far as he knew, she might be blasting Buckingham Palace or the Houses of Parliament, and it was almost certain that quite a number of policemen had by now been reduced to little heaps of dust. She was afraid, right? And there didn't seem to be anything he could do about that. But the rings seem to work like magnets, thought Diggory. If I can only touch her and then slip on my yellow, we shall both be into the wood between the worlds. I wonder, will she go all faint again there? Was that something the place does to her, or was it only the shock of being pulled out of her own world? But I suppose I'll have to risk that. And how am I to find the beast? I don't suppose Aunt Letty would let me go out, not unless I said where I was going, and I haven't got more than 2 pence. I'd need any amount of money for buses and trams if I went looking all over London. Anyway, I haven't the faintest idea where to look. I wonder if Uncle Andrew is still with her. So how many of you guys have been to Spokane?
Oh.
Big city? Is that a big city? Can you imagine having enough money to go around Spokane?
Oh, the Arboretum.
Yeah, no, this is big. Spokane is a big city, right? Like if you were to ride around on buses, how much money would you need? Like a lot.
50. I think it's like $50.
You need a lot of money. So this is the problem that Diggory has. He doesn't have enough money to get around this big city, and he's wondering what to do. It seemed in the end that the only thing he could do was to wait and hope that Uncle Andrew and the witch would come back. If they did, he must rush out, get a hold of the witch, and put on his yellow ring before she had a chance to get into the house. This meant that he must watch the front door like a cat watching a mouse's hole. He dared not leave his post for a moment, so he went into the dining room and glued his face, as they say, to the window. Man, that's a saying. So all that means is he's looking at the window really hard, right? It was a bow window from which you could see the steps up to the front door and see up and down the street, so that no one could reach the front door without your knowing. I wonder what Polly's doing, thought Diggory. He wondered about this a good deal as the first slow half an hour ticked on. But you need not wonder, for I'm going to tell you, she had got home late for her dinner, with her shoes and her stockings very wet, and when they asked her where she had been and what on earth she had been doing, she said that she had been out with Diggory Kirk. Under further questioning, she said that she had got her feet wet in a pool of water and that the pool was in a wood. Asked where the wood was, she said she didn't know. Asked if it was in one of the parks, she said truthfully enough that she thought it might be a sort of park. From all of this, Polly's mother got the idea that Polly had gone off without telling anyone to some of the London's parks and amused herself jumping in puddles. Do you think she might have got in trouble?
Yeah, I really think.
You think if your mother thought you had went to the park and amused yourself jumping in puddles without asking for permission, would she be mad maybe?
Not if
Yeah.
like 16.
If you were, but who here is 16? Only a few of us. I'm pretty sure your mother would not like it if you went to the park without asking and then jumped in puddles.
He's the closest to 16. Well, I am.
No, you are, actually. That's right. So, this is how you get in trouble with your mother, right? Running off out of the house without asking. And that's what's going on with Polly. That is what's going on with Polly. So, as a result, she was told that she had been very naughty, indeed, and that she wouldn't be allowed to play with that Kirk boy anymore if anything of that sort ever happened again. Then she was given dinner with all the nice parts left out and sent to bed for 2 solid hours. It was the thing that happened to one quite often in those days. Has anybody ever been sent to their bed when they were not being good?
No, I think Abby and William have already.
You've been sent to your room.
I think so. I think so. I think that's kind of the same idea. So anyway, while Diggory was staring out the dining room window, Polly was lying in bed, and both were thinking how terribly slowly the time could go. I think myself I would rather have been in Polly's position. She had only to wait for the end of 2 hours, but every few minutes Diggory would hear a cab or a baker's van or a butcher's boy coming around the corner and think, here she comes. And then find it wasn't. And in between those false alarms, for what seemed hours and hours, the clock ticked by, and one big fly, high up and far out of reach, buzzed against the window. It was one of those houses that got very quiet and dull in the afternoon and always seemed to smell of mutton.
What does mutton mean?
I knew you guys wouldn't know. Mutton is just what they cook.
I do.
They just
One,
cooked something they had
lamb.
cooked for lunch. Is what
Oh,
it was.
lamb. It's lamb.
It's lamb, and it was something they cooked for lunch. But people ate mutton in those days in those houses.
It looks.
Now, during this long watching and waiting, one small thing happened which I shall have to mention because something important came of it later on. A lady called with some grapes for Diggory's mother. Grapes. And as the dining room door was open, Diggory couldn't help overhearing Aunt Letty and the lady as they talked in the hall. What lovely grapes, came Aunt Letty's voice. I'm sure if anything could do her good, these would. But poor little Mabel. Now, who's Mabel? Anybody know? No, Mabel is Diggory's mother. Okay? I'm afraid it would need fruit from the land of youth to help her now. Nothing in this world will do much. So what is this lady saying to this other lady? That basically that Diggory's mother is really sick and that Aunt Letty thinks she's going to die. Now that sounds like quite a deal, huh? So it sort of got serious, right? And Diggory's listening to this, right?
Diggory's listening to this because he's
Then they both lowered their voices and said a lot more that he could not hear. You know how sometimes adults say stuff where you can't hear it?
Yeah, except sometimes I don't.
Yeah. And he had heard that bit about the land of youth a few days ago. He would have thought Aunt Letty was just talking about meaning anything in particular, the way grown-ups do. And it wouldn't have interested him. He almost thought so now, but suddenly it flashed upon his mind that he now knew, even Aunt Letty knew, that there really were other worlds and that he himself had been in one of them. And at any rate, there might be a real land of youth somewhere. There might be almost anything. There might be fruit from another world that would really cure his mother. Because he's worried about his mom being sick, right? Would you be worried about your mom if you thought she was dying?
Yeah.
Yes, you would. Okay. And well, you know how it feels if you begin hoping for something that you want desperately badly. You almost fight against the hope because it's too good to be true. You've been disappointed so often before, and that is how Diggory felt. But it was no good trying to throttle his hope. It might really, and it might be true. So many odd things had happened already, and he had the magic rings. There must be worlds you could go to through every pool in the wood. He would hunt through them all, and then mother well again. He wanted his mother to be well. Is that a good thought?
Yeah.
That's a really good thought. You like it too, don't you? Yeah. Everything right again. He forgot all about watching for the witch. His hand was already going into the pocket where he kept the yellow ring, and then all at once he heard the sound of galloping. Now, back in the day of this story, guess what? Carriages were pulled by horses. So you guys don't remember this, and neither do I.
Remember.
Even Grandpa Brown probably didn't see a whole lot of that, but there probably were times when there were carriages that were pulled by horses long ago. In fact, there were times when there were, don't interrupt please, there were times when there were no cars at all. Not one car, only carriages and horses, okay? And what did he hear? No, we're not going to talk. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you, and you're going to listen, okay? Because we got to go fast, right? Because this is long. So he hears this, and he goes, would it be like if you thought you heard a car coming? But in his case, he hears a carriage coming, and he thinks, oh, there's a car coming. Hello, what's that, thought Diggory. Fire engine? I wonder what house is on fire. Great Scott, it's coming here. Why, it's her. And who is her? The witch. Yeah, that's right. First came the hansom. There was no one in the driver's seat. On the roof, not sitting, but standing on the roof, swaying with superb balance. As it came at full speed around the corner, with one wheel in the air, was Jadis, the queen of queens, and the terror of Charn. Her teeth were bared, her eyes shone like fire, and her long hair streamed out behind her like a comet's tail. She was flogging the horse with no mercy. Its nostrils were wide and red, and its eyes were spotted with foam. It galloped madly up to the front door, missing the lamppost by an inch, and then reared up on its hind legs. The hansom crashed into the lamppost and shattered into several pieces. The witch, with a magnificent jump, had sprung clear just in time and landed on the horse's back. She settled herself astride and leaned forward, whispering things in its ear. They must have been things meant not to make it quiet, but to make it mad. It was on its hind legs again in a moment, and its neigh was like a scream. It was all hooves and teeth and eyes and tossing mane. Only a splendid rider could have stayed on its back. Before Diggory had recovered his breath, a good many other things began to happen. A second hansom dashed up close behind the first. Out of it there jumped a fat man in a frock coat and a policeman. Then came a third hansom with 2 more policemen in it. After it came about 20 people, mostly errand boys, on bicycles, all ringing their bells and letting out cheers and catcalls. Last of all came a crowd of people on foot, all very hot and running, but obviously enjoying themselves. Windows shot up all of the houses in that street, and a housemaid or a butler appeared at every front door. They wanted to see the fun. Meanwhile, an old gentleman had begun to struggle shakily out of the ruins of the first hansom. Several people rushed forward. By the way, who do you think the old gentleman might be coming out of the ruins?
Andrew?
It could be Uncle Andrew. That is good thinking there, brother. That's right. It was he just got into a wreck. I just called you brother. You're not my brother. Yeah, but that's okay. So he's probably having a bad day, don't you think, Uncle Andrew? Is he having a bad day?
No.
I think he might be having a bad day.
He's like, oh no, I gotta get my buns inside.
Yes, I think so. And on top of that, he just wrecked the hansom in the front yard because the witch was riding it on top like a chariot. And it sounds like a big horse wreck to me going on all at once. Okay, Diggory guessed that the old gentleman must be Uncle Andrew, but you couldn't see his face. His tall hat had been bashed down over it. Diggory rushed out and joined the crowd. That's the woman, cried the fat man, pointing at Jadis. Do your duty, constable. Hundreds and thousands of pounds worth she's taken out of my shop. Look at that rope of pearls around her neck. That's mine. And she's given me a black eye, too. That's what's more. Well, she's as is, Governor, said one of the crowd, and as lovely a black eye as I'd wish to see. A beautiful bit of work that must have been gore. Ain't she a strong one, then? So apparently the people thought that he deserved to get punched in the eye. So the guy, the fat guy that was, apparently he was a really rich guy that had lots of jewelry, and the witch stole his jewelry, and then when he said something, she punched him in the eye. And he had a big old black eye. Now, some people thought it was funny, and I'm guessing that he didn't think it was funny at all, did he?
I didn't even think it.
Okay, anyway, we gotta keep going. We gotta keep going. You ought to have put a nice raw beefsteak on it, mister. That's what it wants, said the butcher boy. That's what some people used to do for black eyes. You could put a big old beefsteak on your black eye, right? Like a big old piece of beef right on your face, like that. Because it might make the black eye go away. We don't know if it would, but it might. I tell you, she, began the fat man, then someone else called out. Don't let the old cove in the cab get away. He put her up to it. The old gentleman, who was certainly Uncle Andrew, had just succeeded in standing up and rubbing his bruises. Now then, said this policeman, turning to him. "What's all this?" By the way, I want to tell you, you guys are doing a great job of listening patiently. Okay, good job. What's your question there, Dylan?
What page are you?
We are now on page, almost the last one.
Yes.
And you did good, being patient there. Got 5 for me? You know how to do 5?
Yes, she does.
You don't want to. All right, don't give me 5. Please
I
don't.
gotta go potty.
Nope, you have to wait till the end. You gotta wait till the end. Can you do it? Good. I'm glad you can, because we're almost done. No, I'll give you a. Seeing how she doesn't want to, I'll do it with her, okay?
We only have that one.
We have this much and this much. All right, are you guys ready to go? That's the intermission. Are you ready to go? You keep, I only see your head sticking out now. You keep snuggling down farther and farther. Now the rest of you kids, don't pay attention to him. Okay?
I'm not gonna listen to him now.
Are you guys ready to go? Are we ready? We're gonna say 1, 2, 3.
Go.
All right, go. All right, now let's see if I can find where we were. "None of that now," said the policeman sternly. "You'll find this is no laughing matter. Take that at off, see," and I'm not sure exactly even what that means. That's probably old English of some sort. This was more easily said than done, but after Uncle Andrew had struggled in vain with the hat for some time, 2 other policemen seized it by the brim and forced it up and off. Thank you," said Uncle Andrew with a faint voice. "Thank you. Dear me, I'm terribly shaken. If someone could give me a small glass of brandy." So Uncle Andrew likes to drink brandy, doesn't he?
What's brandy?
It's alcohol. He feels better if he drinks alcohol, okay? "Now, you attend to me if you please," said the policeman, taking out a very large notebook with a very small pencil. "Are you in charge of this there young woman?" says the policeman. "Look out!" called several voices, and the policeman jumped a step backwards just in time. The horse had aimed a kick at him, which would probably have killed him. Then the witch wheeled the horse around so that she faced the crowd with its hind legs there in the footpath. She had a long, bright knife in her hand and had been busily cutting the horse free from the wreck of the hansom. All this, so in other words, the carriage that was carrying Uncle Andrew and the witch had wrecked in the front yard, right? Now, yeah, your Grandpa Don could probably tell you that it takes a lot of stuff to get a horse to pull a carriage. So the witch has now got the knife, and she is cutting loose all this stuff so that she can get the horse loose, right? Because she's planning on riding off with this horse, I think. It's probably sort of the plan. Because the carriage is like what? Broke in 100 pieces at the front of Diggory's house. Okay? So she's causing a lot of trouble, isn't she?
Yeah, he wants to kill them.
Yeah, I'm not sure what she wants to do. Maybe she just wants to take control of the world, I'm guessing.
Maybe she wants to be the queen.
So Dylan, are you wiggling your hand from behind the thing over there? Dylan, you're Tyler. Tyler, are you wiggling your hand from behind the thing over there?
I'm raising my hand.
Do you have a raised hand?
Yes.
What would you like to say?
Are we on the first book still?
You are still on the first book. Yeah, you missed a few, but not too many. All right, we ready to go? Shall we get this finished?
Yeah.
Do you want to see how far we have to go?
Yeah.
Sit up here so you can see, and I'll show you. We got to go from here to here and then to here.
And we're done.
Then we're done. Can you make it? All right. How about all of you Anglin kids? All the Anglin kids up at Athol, Idaho? How'd I get the highway? We're not going to tell you right now, okay? We're not going to tell you. All right, so all this time, Diggory had been trying to get into position from which he could touch the witch, right? So Diggory thinks he has to touch the witch. Why?
So we can take her back to the place called the pool. So
He thinks that if he touches her with the rings, he can get her out of there, right? That's what he thinks. Which probably is true, right?
I think it's good.
If he could do it, but guess what? It's a mess out there, isn't it? I mean, the hansom is broke all up. There's horses kicking people. There's people angry. There's guys with black eyes. All kinds of stuff. Policemen shouting. All kinds of people looking on.
But policeman compared to Lloyd, which is like...
Not too much, is it?
Yeah, he's like
Okay, so Diggory's got to touch the witch, right?
Yep.
Now, this wasn't at all easy because on the side nearest to him, there were too many people. And in order to get around to the other side, can you sit up, please? Just sit right up with your bottom down there. That'd be helpful. Thank you. You're doing really good. All right. And in order to get around to the other side, he had to pass between the horse's hooves and the railings of the area that surrounded the house. And so, do you like to crawl under a horse's hooves?
No.
Not me. Don, do we want to crawl under horses' hooves when they're mad like that?
No.
No.
You get stomped on to death.
You could get stomped on to death. So he's being smart about the horse, right? Okay, as for the Ketterleys' house, there was a basement, and if you know anything about houses, and especially if you had been seen what a state that horse was in the moment, you will realize that this was a ticklish thing to do. Diggory knew lots about horses, but he set his teeth and got ready to make a dash for it as soon as he saw a favorable moment. A red-faced man in a bowler hat had now shouldered his way to the front of the crowd. "Hi, policeman," he said. "That's my 'orse, what she's sitting on." That's a kind of English that they speak in a place called Cockney in England, in London. It's a kind of, well, I'm going to translate it for you so you know what it means. The man says, "That's my horse that she's sitting on, and it's my cab that she's made into matchwood." You know what matchwood is? Little sticks, little bitty sticks. "One at a time, please, one at a time," said the policeman. "But there ain't no time," said the cabbie. "I know that horse better than you do. It's not an ordinary horse. It's the father of an officer charger in the cavalry, he was. And if that young woman goes on exciting him there, it'll be a murder done. Let me at him." The policeman was only too glad to have a good reason for standing farther away from the horse. The cabbie took a step nearer, looked up at Jadis, and said in a not unkindly voice, "Now, missy, let me at its head, and just you get off. You're a lady, and you don't want all these roughs going on, do you? You want to go home and have a nice cup of tea." He's talking to the witch. He thinks she's nice, right? But she's really not so nice, is she? "And lay down quiet-like, and you'll feel ever so much better." At the time, he stretched out his hands toward the horse's head with the words, "Steady, Strawberry, old boy, steady now." So the horse's name is what? Strawberry. The horse's name is Strawberry. "Steady, Strawberry, old boy, steady now." And it's important because later on, we need to know who Strawberry is. Okay, so you guys remember that.
Oh, Strawberry's the god.
No, it's the horse's name.
It's the horsey. Oh, it's the horsey that carries the carriage.
Then for the first time, the witch spoke. "Dog," so she's calling somebody a dog, right? Came her cold, clear voice, ringing loud above all the other noises. "Dog, unhand our royal charger." So she's talking to the guy who wants to take care of the horse. "We are the Empress Jadis." And that's the last page. All right, now, I'm going to say a few things and we're going to shut the video off, okay? No more hands. Everybody get your hands down. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is kind of an important part. If you do get to watch the movie again, some of you people, if you do, the next chapter is called The Fight at the Lamppost.
Oh,
So who knows?
that part.
So I have a question. Who knows where in our movies that we're watching there is a lamppost?
Oh,
Where is it, Dylan?
That's so funny.
You have to wait. You have to wait just a
The
minute.
Chronicles of Narnia, the movie,
Yep.
it's right
Oh, I know.
where,
Okay, so there's a lamppost in the Chronicles of Narnia.
and right from
And so apparently there's going to be a fight at a lamppost.
At
This
that
could be
lamppost.
interesting. This could be interesting.
where they come out of the wardrobe lamp. It's gonna be at that lamppost.
All right, so are you guys excited to find out about a fight at the lamppost?
Yeah.
I wonder if the horse is going to be involved. I bet you the witch will be involved. Maybe
I
Straw.
bet Diggory maybe.
Maybe Diggory's going to be involved. How about Polly?
Uncle,
Maybe Polly?
Uncle
I don't know.
Andrew probably.
Probably Uncle Andrew, I'm guessing.
Oh,
And I think, okay, now listen, you go potty right here in this near bathroom and don't knock over my tripod. You go potty in my back bathroom and don't knock over my tripod.
You got it.
And we are all done with this business.
Is that